part of the reason why I brought you guys on today was to talk about PHUX, which is I'm saying it right, by the way, am I?
Yeah, we like to call it the PHUX, but yes, you can call it.
Okay, PHUX, right on. What is this, a fork of anything? Is this kind of like what is this a fork of?
This is a fork of Balancer.
It's a fork of Balancer.
Yeah,
so,
and
forgive my potential framing this way, but just put it in kind of an interesting contrarian way. Why does Pulse Chain need another DEX? Why PHUX?
Oh, well, it's always nice to have multiple price feeds first off, right? Balancer has something called a stable swap, right? Just so happens we're talking about stable coins already, right? But on something like Pulse Chain, where you have the V2, liquidity pools, the X times Y equals K, to get, let's say, 1% slippage on $1 million, right? You need 50 million on each side of the pool. So that's quite a lot of liquidity, right? And then even then, it's still a lot of slippage for that sort of trade for just swapping between stablecoins. You know what I mean? So you have something like Balancer where you have stablecoin or stable swaps where it's a lot less slippage because you can configure it in a much better way, in a much better weight. And then we think it's also really cool with Balancer that you can have multiple coins in a pool, right? So there's a couple things in the community that we can use with the multi-coin pools. Like the perfect example is the Maxi guys, right? They have plenty of those perps, right? You got the Maximus, you've got the Deci, you've got the 7-year one, the 3-year one, and then the 1-year one, right? You can stick all of those in a pool and have all of their liquidity in one place. And then you can also add, a USDC with it as well, right? And they can all trade amongst themselves and find their correct price. Whereas, right now, if you go and try and trade in and out of some of them, the liquidity is pitiful. Naturally, it doesn't, trade that much. But, if you, pair them all together in a nice one place, you'll be able to trade in and out, probably have a better order execution, and then maybe better price discovery as well, right? That's probably the best example. But, there's other ones like for Pulse Doge and all of the stuff that they've made, with the ASIC token, Pulse Bitcoin, and then Pulse Doge, because I think, for instance, Pulse Doge doesn't have pretty much any liquidity at the moment, whereas Pulse Bitcoin or ASIC, one of the two, has a majority of the liquidity for their pretty much entire ecosystem, right? And then, you can use this for the Poly Maximus with Icosa and then Hedron. A lot of creative things that you can do with this stuff, with the multi-pools, right? That would save you on fees if you're trying to trade between those on something like PulseX, where, you're hopping between pools, right, a bunch. And, obviously you're eating a fee that whole time. And then, there's this thing called bootstrapping, where, if you're a new project and you don't have the funds to really start your liquidity pool, you can weight it in a specific way where you can have less starting capital in the pool and have the weights. You're playing with the weights, and essentially over a period of time, they naturally migrate to the 50-50, the weight, right? And it's kind of easier on the founders of whatever they're doing and stuff like this. So we think that's pretty cool. We don't expect to be a overtake PulseX, right? That's not the goal here. It's more so of working in tandem and having multiple price feeds of a lot of these different tokens for the ecosystems, right? Because that really helps things like fiat, having different liquidity pools that you can kind of spread your risk out, right? So if you've got 5 million in this pool, and then you've got 10 million over here, and say the 5 million is on PHUX, right, and the 10 million is on PulseX, it kind of spreads the risk around instead of it all being in one place on PulseX. You know what I mean? And so when you're processing liquidations, you can go between these two pools instead of just one pool, right? And so it's harder for people to manipulate that. It's better for order execution, all sorts of stuff like that, right? So, we think that being, maybe the number 2 or number 3 DEX on Pulse Chain will be valuable, right? And then obviously the tokenomics, this is a free airdrop, right? There's no SAC for this. The tokenomics haven't been ironclad yet. So far we know that it'll be an inflationary token. We know that it'll be airdropped to most likely it's going to be airdropped to the PHAME and PHIAT sacrificers. I don't know if it's been, Buck can probably comment on if it'll be to the PulseX and Pulse sacrifice set, but that would be cool. And then
we'll most likely make that happen.